Okay, so we wacky first three games of the NFL season. Another typical week in college football, and uh, more craziness coming up.
Let's talk football.
Okay, welcome to Let's Talk Football. I'm your host, John Behrens.
And I'm Joshua Perkins.
Okay, man, I'm done. I'm ready to throw on the flag, raise the white flag, throw on the towel.
Hey, man, it's early in the season, man. Gotta give it some time. Give it some time, brother.
This, I mean, unpredictability is what you expect from college football.
Right.
Unpredictability is not what you expect from pro football.
And when we're talking about unpredictability, no one expected the Bills to go into U.S. Bank Stadium and shock the Vikings the way they did. The score was 27-6 Bills. Bills were up 27-0 at halftime. And Josh Allen had a pretty good game in his first start with the Bills. From with the Vikings team with all the weapons they had, I didn't expect the Bills to come in and beat the Vikings the way they did. Another part of unpredictability, Miami Dolphins are undefeated right now. Let that sink in. They have a better record than the New England Patriots. Let that sink in for right now. It might change, but I'm just saying, let's enjoy the wave while we still have it.
Okay, so week 3, and just listen to this stat.
Okay.
The Minnesota Vikings, the Cleveland Browns, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have identical records.
1-1-1.
Notice I had Cleveland in that sentence.
For Cleveland to be in the same sentence as those teams, kind of weird. But you got to look at the Cleveland Browns. They've gotten a lot better, like I said in the past shows before, that whoever played the Browns this season, you got to look at them in a very different light. You cannot look at the same team that went 0-16 last season. This is a much more evolved team. They got Jarvis Landry. They got Carlos Hyde, who had an amazing game against the New York Jets. Not only that, Baker Mayfield has been named the starting quarterback over Tyrod Taylor. So that kind of raises more concern for a lot more teams that's going to be going against this Browns team. And you got to look at this, like the Browns got a stout defense, a very stout defense. They held Jets to 17 points and held them to under 300 yards of total offense this past Thursday in Baker Mayfield's debut. And they also made the Jets cough the ball off 3 times.
Yeah. So it looks like Cleveland actually has a quarterback.
They got a team.
Number 30. 30th times the charm.
And, for a quarterback to go to Cleveland, it's been more of a curse. And I feel that Baker Mayfield can lift that curse. If he has a really good season, lead the Browns to the playoffs, if he has a couple good seasons, I feel that curse can get lifted, and it won't be a place to where a quarterback's career comes to die.
No. So, Baker Mayfield was actually a surprise for me. I was a little bit skeptical of Mayfield coming into the league. I thought he could be a good quarterback, but revive the Cleveland Browns 20 years later, I don't know. I did not expect that. And of course, it's just one game, and it's against the Jets. We still have the rest of the season to figure out who Baker Mayfield really is.
And I feel that the Cleveland Browns, they play their cards right. You know how LeBron James came in and revived a horrific Cavaliers franchise and led them to their first title, lifting the curse off of the Cavaliers franchise. I feel that Baker Mayfield can do the same thing. If you give him 2 or 3 years, he could probably do the same thing with the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah. So another thing that's been rather confusing is, if I remember correctly, we actually came into the season with what appeared to be a wealth of strong defenses, and none of them are really living up to their preseason hype. Just look at Minnesota.
Oh, Lord. Now, in Minnesota, with Minnesota, they did hold the Bills to under 300 yards. Total offense. Look at the Bills' offense. Not really much going for them. Josh Allen had a pretty good game, 15 to 22, 196 yards and a touchdown. They did a pretty good job stopping the run. They held Chris Ivory to under 3 yards per carry. The Saints defense been struggling. And they struggled against the Atlanta Falcons this past Sunday, despite getting the win. But like I always say, with the Falcons, they got Matt Ryan, got Julio Jones. With those two, that's one of the best tandems in the league. And whenever they step on the field, no matter who they're playing against, they're gonna have a good game. They're gonna go off. And so next week is a chance for the Saints defense to really go through with a game plan and really bounce back.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that because I know they have a good defense, but I haven't seen it yet.
I feel well. They got a lot of new players in their defense, so they probably have to adjust their game plan defensively. And I guess they're still they're going through growing pains right now. They got a brand new captain in DeMario Davis who came in from the New York Jets. You got Kurt Coleman in the secondary. You got Patrick Robinson in the secondary. You got rookie Marcus Davenport on the defensive line. And so I guess they're just trying to adjust to a new system in New Orleans. And so I feel they're going through growing pains right now. I'm going to use an analogy. Look at LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade, their first season together in Miami. They start off kind of slow, but they really pick things up as they played together more. You could practice together all you want and build that chemistry, but it's a lot different when you're on the field during a game time situation.
Yeah. Just going back to Buffalo, Minnesota for a brief second. Did you see that thing on social media where where the Buffalo Bills put up that map of the United States and had the travel distance from Buffalo to Minnesota, and they actually had the Vikings in Wisconsin?
Oh wow!
The Vikings organization actually responded with actually we're in the other Minnesota.
Oh wow!
And then after the game, the Buffalo organization came back with, well, looks like we found the real Minnesota. It was pretty funny.
Let's kind of shift gears more. A game I want to talk about is Sunday Night Football. New England going to Ford Field to take on the Detroit Lions.
Oh, Lord.
And the Lions completely put the clamps on New England. They held the Patriots to only 209 yards of total offense, while the Lions racked up over 400 yards. The Lions controlled the clock with over 39 minutes time of possession, with New England getting only 20-45. It was just Detroit had full control of that game. Tom Brady was 14 of 26 for only 133 yards. The Lions, for the first time in over 70 games, have a 100-yard rusher. The rookie out of Auburn, Kerryon Johnson, who was a stud back in Auburn. It was hard to bring that guy down. Matthew Stafford, 27 of 36, 262 yards and 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. The Lions, the way the Lions play that night, that is their potential. The way they handled the Patriots offensively and defensively, the type of team that they have, that is the potential they have. But it seems that every week they're not really living up to their ceiling. They're not really living up to their potential. You saw the Monday Night Football opener against the Jets. The Lions were completely abysmal. And so the Lions have really, now they're settled down behind first-year head coach Matt Patricia. Now, are the Lions truly that good the way they played Sunday night? Or was it because they had Matt Patricia, who has full knowledge of that New England Patriots team?
That's kind of what I was thinking. That Matt Patricia still had a fresh memory of the New England playbook. So, on one hand, it was a pretty solid performance from the Lions, but at the same point, it's like,
You got Matt Patricia, who was the defensive coordinator, who, at practice had the game plan against Tom Brady's offense.
Exactly.
And not only that, he knew the defense because last year he coached them. So he knew how to handle that defense.
Yeah.
So,
we'll find out.
As the season goes forward, we'll find out. But Detroit, I really don't see them going forward.
But at the same time, New England did struggle against Jacksonville's defense, and let's see who did they win against? They're 1-2 right now.
New England defeated Houston.
Houston, yeah, and Houston's playing like a pretty sad sack.
Yeah, I mean Houston just lost to the New York Giants. The Giants were able to get their first win against the Houston Texans. Eli Mann looked pretty good. He was 25 of 29, over 80% completion percentage for 297 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Saquon Barkley, 17 carries, 82 yards. Odell Beckham, 9 catches, 109 yards. I mean, and that's what you got to expect out of Odell Beckham, considering he signed that major extension with the Giants in the offseason. So, I mean, where the Giants really, controlled the Texans was, turnover margin. They forced two turnovers and the time of possession with 35 minutes and 30 seconds of time of possession.
Yeah. It looks like Deshaun Watson actually has had a little bit of drop off. I don't know if that's part of the knee injury or.
I wouldn't say it's part of the knee injury. I mean, he was 24-40, 385 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. He actually didn't have a bad game. I mean, but it's just the Texans, where they fall off, they have a hard time finishing the game. That's where they have a hard time doing. I mean, you look at it, with the Texans, they lost 27-20 against the Patriots. They lost 20-17 against the Titans, 27-22 against the Giants. And so, I mean, they lost by 7 to New England, lost by 3, then lost by 5. I mean, that's a total of, 15 points right there? So
yeah.
So their losses are averaging they're losing by average of 5 points. So I feel that their problem is finishing the game. Being able to finish a game and being able to win. If they can learn how to finish, I mean, they got a chance against the Indianapolis Colts next Sunday. So they got to learn how to finish.
Yeah, could definitely. I don't know. They're definitely playing under their potential. They're one of several teams that are currently playing under their full potential. I mean, it is just 3 games into the season, but again, it's 3 games into the season. You should be improving as the season goes on.
They're 0-3 right now, and that's a bad spot to be. 3 games in the season, and then the season is only going to get a little harder. It's going to progress. It's going to evolve. It's going to get harder. So Texans got to figure something out quick, fast, and in a hurry.
A little bit of surprise, or not a little bit, really, like quite a surprise. Miami 3-0 and 2-game lead in the AFC East.
Well, Ryan Tannehill's coming in this season with a chip on his shoulder. I mean, he was out all last season. Jay Cutler had to take over, and a lot of people were questioning Ryan Tannehill's ability. There was a lot of questions surrounding the whole Miami Dolphins organization, like what are they doing, as far as free agency is concerned, and where's this team going? What direction are they going to take? It was kind of like you don't know what they're trying to do. And I mean, Ryan Tannehill goes out. I mean, gets Oakland 17 of 23, 289 yards and 3 touchdowns. And, and you look at Miami. Not a whole lot of offensive play from them. They only had 13 first downs, and they only had 21 minutes of time of possession in that game. I mean, Oakland controlled the clock the whole game, but the turnover margin is just Miami make the plays that they need to make,
Is it just me, or does the Miami offense seem to work a little bit better without Landry in it?
I think they work a little bit better. I think they work a little bit better with. I mean, it's kind of weird to say because Jarvis Landry, in my opinion, is a guy that could fit into almost any offense. Just the kind of receiver he is. He's very versatile. If you need him to go out for a route, if you need him to make catch a short pass, he'll do that. If you need him to be a deep threat, he could be a deep threat. If you need him to be a blocker, he can lay out some safeties if he wants to. I mean, he's multi-dimensional at wide receiver.
Mm-hmm. See what else? Oh gosh, yeah, Cowboys look terrible.
Oh, I mean, of course, they're the Cowboys. They lost 24-13 to the Seattle Seahawks, and Dak Prescott 19 to 34, 168 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. While Ezekiel Elliott had himself a game, he had 16 carries for 127 yards on the ground. And the point that I'm kind of trying to get at is the turnover margin. You know, if you lose turnover margin, you're probably gonna lose the game. I mean, Dallas gave the ball up 3 times in that game. You know, I mean, statistically wise, it was a pretty even game. I mean, Dallas had 303 yards total offense. Seattle had 295. Dallas had 27 minutes of time possession. Seattle had 32. Dallas had 17 first downs. Seattle had 18. But it comes out to the turnover margin. Can't get the ball up. But Seattle, on the other hand, 16 of 26, 192 yards, 2 touchdowns for Russell Wilson. Running back play was a lot better. Chris Carson, 32 carries for 102 yards in that game for Seattle and a touchdown. Tyler Lockett, 4 catches, 77 yards and a touchdown. So Seattle played a lot better in this game. And this is a Seattle team that lost probably 90% of their Legion of Boom.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Thomas is the only one left.
But I mean, he's doing his best. And then now that you got the Griffin twins, you got Shaquille and Shaquem Griffin. Shaquem Griffin, who had an amazing preseason, and he's doing pretty good right now, adjusting to being in the pros and adjusting to Pete Carroll's defense.
And Patrick Mahomes, man, 13 touchdowns in 3 games, broke Peyton Manning's record, a rookie record.
Patrick Mahomes is not human. This is a robot, okay? This is a robot. NFL, run for your lives. If you play Patrick Mahomes, look, if I'm on the Chiefs schedule and I'm a defender and we're about to play Patrick Mahomes, like the day of the game, I'm going to my coach. I'm sick. Patrick Mahomes in the game against San Francisco was 24 of 38, 314 yards and 3 touchdowns, while his number 1 target, Travis Kelce, 8 catches for 114 yards. Patrick Mahomes is, wow. He has a 66% completion percentage. He's passed for 896 yards of the season, 13 touchdowns, and get this, 0 picks. Let that sink in. 0 picks for Patrick Mahomes. This is his first season starting for the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is unreal, and this is a guy who I can see getting Offensive Player of the Year, hands down.
Yeah.
And if he keeps playing the way he's playing, I can go as far as maybe MVP.
Well, I think there's some other players out there that might want to make an argument against that.
Yeah, I mean, you got Drew Brees out there who's making a case for himself, obviously. I mean, we're gonna get to that a little later, but just Patrick Mahomes has been outstanding for the Chiefs, and this is a Chiefs team that is dangerous, and this is a Chiefs team that if they keep playing the way they're playing, they might end up giving Jacksonville a run for their money to represent the AFC.
Yeah. Jacksonville did lose to Tennessee. Pretty tight defensive game.
9-6.
9-6.
And Marcus Mariota actually came off the bench in that game. 12 for 18, passing, 100 yards. Pretty defensive game. No team, like both teams were under 250 yards of total offense. I mean, this was a game of field goals. It was pretty much Ryan Suckup versus Josh Lambo. And I was listening to Mike Vrabel's, the head coach of Tennessee. I was listening to his, when he was talking to the team post game. He was like, "Look, I understand. It's been nothing fancy, but we've been getting the job done." And that's pretty much what it all comes down to. You can put all the stats you want, but if you're not making the plays at the right time, if you're not making the plays that you need to make, you will lose the game. The Titans have been playing everything but fancy football. The stats are really not there, but they get the job done. They do what they have to do to win.
Right. So we're kind of seeing a shift towards the quarterbacks from this past draft. Obviously Sam Darnold started the season as the starter for the Jets. Did okay. He's done okay so far. He's shown some potential. Still clearly a rookie, but Josh Allen had a game against Minnesota. We saw Baker Mayfield. And now we got a glimpse of Josh Rosen. I'm not too sure. I was not impressed with that performance at all, but at the same time, he was just kind of thrown out there.
I mean, he was. I mean, Tim Bradford wasn't really playing to, potential. I mean, Josh Rosen was only 4-7, 36 yards and an interception. And I think that the Cardinals are going to, since they're 0-3, a bad spot to be right now in this point of the season. I feel that they're going to probably most likely make a switch from Sam Bradford to Josh Rosen, kind of like experiment with it a little bit, see how he does going into next week's game. And, they're going against the Seattle Seahawks at home next weekend. So Michael McCoy is probably going to switch from Sam Bradford to Josh Rosen and see how that goes. But right now, I mean, at this point, you might want to take a switch because Sam Bradford hasn't been living up to expectations right now out there in Arizona. So the best thing, in my opinion, is to switch to Josh Rosen and see how he does. I mean, you look at the Buffalo Bills. After Nathan Peterman was abysmal in the first game of the season against Baltimore, they quickly made a switch to Josh Allen. And they were able to get their first win of the season against the Minnesota Vikings this past weekend on the road in a very hostile U.S. Bank Stadium. And so you look at Hugh Jackson. He made a switch from Tyrod Taylor to Baker Mayfield. Cleveland got the win. And so I feel that if Arizona can make that switch from Bradford to Rosen, their fortunes might change.
Yeah, very much so. I guess we should wait until next week to see how Josh Rosen will respond. Because, like I said, he kind of just thrown in there, but not too impressive off the bat.
I mean, he was kind of throwing it at a very impromptu time. So
Yeah.
it was kind of like more of like an improvised move for Rosen to get thrown out there.
Let's see. Is there anything else in the NFL that kind of went down? Obviously, Fitzmagic didn't come through this week.
3 picks.
Still threw for 411 yards, though.
And not only that, Vance McDonald lived up to the grown man tradition. Oh, man, if you saw that play, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Last night, no.
Last night, you should have saw that play. Vance McDonald gave the stiff arm of the year.
Oh, yeah, that play. Yeah, I actually did see the rerun.
To Chris
on it.
Conti. Or how you pronounce the last name? Conti or Conky?
I don't know. I'm terrible with name pronunciation.
Well, just know Vance McDonald, Pittsburgh tight end, gave the stiff arm of the year. And I was just like, good Lord, he just baptized them. That was the baptism in Tampa Bay right there.
Yeah. But at the same time, it does look like Pittsburgh is continuing to struggle with arguably the disruptions that they're currently having. They're now talking about trading Le'Veon Bell, which, if in my opinion, they should do if he's not going to play this year, and they're going to lose him at the end of the year anyway. At least get something out of it.
I mean, you might as well. Well, they're very stubborn, and so they just feel that a guy of his value, at least they're trying to give him, like they don't want to give him an extension. At least they're going to try and give him a team to go to. Le'Veon Bell, in my opinion, one of the best running backs in the league, and just goes to show Pittsburgh treated him horribly. I'm just going to say it. Le'Veon Bell has done nothing but produce for that Steelers offense. He has been one of the cornerstones of that Steelers franchise since he came out of Michigan State. And he deserves an extension. And so I'm not going to even knock him for holding out. Now, the one bad part about it is that he's missing out on his game checks, which goes up to be about $850,000. Do you know what I can do with $850,000? Do you know all my debts will be paid? My car will be paid off. And I can get my own place.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
A lot of money to sit down.
Look, hey, strap me up, coach. And look, all I need is one play for 800. Okay, cool. I'll take my hit. I have a high pain threshold. I'll take a hit.
You know, been a pretty interesting 3 weeks in the NFL so far.
It has. What's about to get more interesting is college football, though. College is going to get more interesting by the week. Texas is a team I'm really getting impressed with. Texas, for the second week in a row, they knocked off a ranked opponent. Last week, the weekend before last, it was USC. This weekend, it was TCU. Texas is a team that I can look at seeing to compete in the Big 12. And it's like the Big 12 now, teams are starting to separate themselves. And I can't believe we waited so long to talk about college football. I mean, and I'm just going to jump into it. Let's talk about how number 5 Oklahoma got into a nail biter in overtime versus
Army.
The Army Black Knights. 28-21. Which is why I didn't really feel so bad about LSU getting into a dogfight with La Tech. LSU did pull away at the end.
La Tech is arguably a better team than Army anyway, though.
Yeah, that's true.
At least offensively.
But there are some upsets that went down. Purdue upset Boston College.
No. Let's not start there, sir. Let's not start there.
What?
Let's talk about Old Dominion beating Virginia Tech.
Oh, Old Dominion had like a 1.8% chance to win that game. They were like a 27-point underdog. And Old Dominion put in their backup quarterback and knocked off Virginia Tech 49-35. Make matters worse, their quarterback is out indefinitely. To make matters worse, they dismissed their sack leader, Trevon Hill, defensive end, who is a stud, for failure to uphold team standards. Now let's talk about that for a second, because after the game, he posted on Twitter because, all right, Virginia Tech's defensive coordinator, Bud Foster, the yards they give up against Old Dominion was probably the most in his 24 seasons as defensive coordinator, and he posted the screenshot of that on his Twitter profile picture. And I feel that was the root of why he got dismissed from the team. But you got to look at Trevon Hill. I don't think they consulted him about that. And what if he posted on there to motivate him to get better? What if he wants to look at that every day to motivate him to be a better defensive lineman, to be a better defender, to work harder, and to be better? I don't think they consulted him about that, and I don't know why you want to say failure to uphold team standards. I mean, that's kind of the first time I've heard of that. I mean, just say y'all just salty over the Twitter incident. It's crazy. I mean, it's, in my opinion, it's complete nonsense.
Yeah, but you still lost to Old Dominion.
They lost to Old Dominion, who
was 0-3 going into that game.
And they put in Blake LaRussa, who threw for 495 yards, 30 of 49 passing, and 4 touchdowns. Pretty much a flawless game. By the way, he came off the bench. This is a backup quarterback against a Conference USA school in Old Dominion. They've been in FBS for how long? 2, maybe 3 seasons? They haven't been in FBS long.
Are you sure they're FBS?
Old Dominion used to be FCS for a while.
Yeah, I mean, they've only been playing football for 10 years now.
But they've only been FBS by maybe 2 or 3 years now, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, and it's not like the Appalachian State upset of Michigan, where it was like a field goal difference. This was a 2-touchdown lead over a ranked opponent.
At home. And I know they partied hard that night.
Which is surprising. They actually got Virginia Tech to come to Old Dominion.
Which really surprised me. But then again, I mean, Toledo had Miami come to them. I mean, the Hurricanes went to Toledo and played, the Rockets out there. I mean, at one point, back when Duke was on their when Duke was in their flatline era of football, they had Alabama come to them at one time. I mean, I don't know why they had Virginia Tech go to Old Dominion. Which is kind of weird to me.
Apparently, it's part of a home and home deal for the next 13 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Old Dominion. They
Seven games at Virginia Tech, 6 at Old Dominion. Well, Virginia Tech might want to cancel that contract now.
I mean, they gave up 632 yards total offense to Old Dominion. And if I was Virginia Tech, if I was Bud Foster, Monday at practice, everybody on the line. On the line. Right now. But I hope Old Dominion enjoys this. And I hope they keep this same energy for the rest of the season. Because if they don't, then we're going to have some very upset Hokie fans like, these guys didn't even make bowl eligible and they beat us.
You're already going to have some upset Hokie fans.
If Virginia Tech wants any chance to, try and get into like a New Year's Six bowl, they need to win the ACC, which is not going to happen. You got to go through Clemson. And Clemson, Dabo Swinney has already looked at Trevor Lawrence starting QB. And Trevor Lawrence is very talented. This is a guy that I feel that he is probably the future of college football. Trevor Lawrence is only a freshman, but he was highly recruited back when he was in high school. He has a cannon of an arm, and the guy plays very well every week. And it is hard to not give him playing time. It's hard to not put him out there.
Okay. So you were talking earlier about the Purdue game.
They were able to upset Boston College 30-13. And so
I mean,
I lost my train of thought. But Purdue was able to pick up their first win of the season. They were able to put in David Blue, and who is now who's a senior. He'll be the starting quarterback pretty much for the rest of the season for Purdue. I mean, this is a win they needed. This is something to really kind of – this win could probably be the turning point of their season. They were 0-3 going to this game. They needed a victory, and they were able to beat Boston College. And this was a perfect opportunity for Purdue. So we can see how they do in the Big Ten. In Big Ten right now, people are starting to separate themselves. I mean, you got Ohio State, who's continuing their dominance. Penn State's continuing their dominance. Michigan's continuing their dominance. Wisconsin, they're back on track. After losing to BYU, they defeated Iowa on the road. Alex Hornibrook finally made the throws he needed to make. 17-22, 205 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor, who is a Heisman candidate at running back, 25 carries for 113 yards. And so they're doing what they need to do to win now, and I feel their head coach probably got through to them. It was kind of like a rally. They were down 17-14 in the fourth quarter, and Wisconsin came back and won with 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns. A.J. Taylor was 17-yard pass from Alex Hornibrook, and Alec Ingold with a 33-yard run with 22 seconds left in the game. So Wisconsin do what they need to do to win. And so I still have a little bit of faith in Wisconsin. I mean, you go through minor setbacks before a major comeback. And so if Wisconsin keep winning, if they keep doing what they got to do, they can compete in the Big Ten as well. But you got to go through Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan. Those are my top 3 teams in the Big Ten right now.
Yeah, we actually had a few upsets, few losses in the top 25 this week. I want to say 7 total.
Well, Oregon lost to Stanford in overtime, 38-31, in which was a comfort behind victory for Stanford. Virginia Tech losing to Old Dominion. Oh, listen to this. Mississippi State loses to Kentucky 28-7.
Yeah, I was about to just talk about that because now I just wanted to pull up the
Texas Tech upsets Oklahoma State.
But now you have Kentucky and Duke that are ranked in the top 25
in football. In basketball, it happens every season. I mean, that's commonplace, and they're usually top 5, top 10. But to have them both in the top 25 in football, hell, it's frozen over. But, and what we're talking about, I'm going to talk about the Heisman candidacy right now. You're looking at guys like Jonathan Taylor, Bryce Love out of Stanford, Will Grier out of West Virginia, Tua Tagovailoa out of Alabama. But a guy that I would put in the Heisman conversation that a lot of people not giving credit for is Benny Snell Jr., running back out of Kentucky. This past game against Mississippi State. Right now, Kentucky's undefeated right now as well. I'm just going to put that out there. This is a team that could probably compete in the East if they can get past Georgia.
That is very surprising.
That would be surprising if they can compete with Georgia.
Not a sentence I expected to hear going into the season.
I mean, they're 4-0 right now.
But they're a good team.
I mean, they're 2-0 in the conference. They knocked off Florida, who was supposed to be a big obstacle in the East.
They dominated Mississippi State.
Benny Snell, 25 carries, 165 yards, and 4 touchdowns for the Wildcats. 4 games into the season, he's already at 87 carries, 540 yards rushing, and 7 touchdowns. This is a guy you need to look at for the Heisman candidacy. Benny Snell Jr. is a stud at running back.
You know, Kentucky is now ranked for the first time since 2007.
That's also crazy. Hell is frozen over. TCU dropped from the rankings.
Well, that's not surprising. Back-to-back losses will do that.
Well, I mean, but they lost to Ohio State in one of those losses, but they also lost to Texas as well. Texas is back in the top 25. Texas Tech dominated Oklahoma State on the road 41-17. They're in the top 25 now. I mean, right now Texas Tech is 3-1. They lost to Ole Miss first game of the season, but they really found their footing going forward. Oklahoma State, as you can tell, they probably suffering from the loss of Mason Rudolph due to the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Texas is a team that I can honestly see competing in the Big 12. If they can beat Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry, this can be a team that can probably go far in the Big 12. Right now, they're in the top 25 as well. They were able to beat them 31-16. They forced 4 turnovers out of TCU, and they dominated the clock and time of possession. And it seems that Ellinger, the quarterback, Sam Ellinger, he's found his footing, and he's starting to find his stride at quarterback, and he's only a sophomore. So Coach Herman's going to have him for another season after this, guaranteed. So this Texas team is really starting to they're starting to find their confidence, and they're starting to find their mojo and their swagger back. I'm talking back from the Mac Brown days. They're probably starting to find that swagger. It might be a little too early to tell, but that swagger is starting to come back. So the Big 12, watch out for the Texas Longhorns. Watch out.
Yeah. So, how bad is Florida State?
Florida State won this past weekend. I'm giving that they beat Northern Illinois.
But they've been destroyed by
Syracuse,
and Virginia Tech, and then barely beat
Samford. Not Stanford, Samford. This is an FCS school we're talking about. They won 37-19. Florida State right now, they're 2-2. Not really much I can say about Florida State. Willie Taggart has to really figure something out as far as his team is concerned.
Yeah, I was about to say not a good start to the Willie Taggart era at Florida State.
But I mean, things can change. Things can possibly change. So I'm not saying Florida State's going to be completely horrible this season, because in college football, it's unpredictable. Anything can happen.
Yeah, definitely.
LSU is continuing their role, even though they could have played better against La Tech. I mean, we'll cover that at Cajun Connection.
Well, you know, LSU continues to win impressively. Only team to have 2 wins over a top 10 team thus far. But they've yet to play a complete game. I've yet to see a complete game from the Tigers.
I mean, honestly, they shouldn't have given up 3 touchdowns against La Tech. That shouldn't have happened. But they're going against Ole Miss next weekend. 8:15 kickoff time, which usually means Saturday Night Death Valley. You can consider it at 7:00 p.m. That's Saturday Night Death Valley right there. But you know, usually depending on the time of year, the sun is usually not quite down yet.
Mm-hmm.
But 8:15 kickoff time, Ole Miss better be ready, because the sun rises in the east and finds its home in the Western Hemisphere, it's Saturday night in Death Valley.
Yeah.
So Ole Miss better be ready because it's going to be dark. The clouds are going to, the sky's going to be dark. The lights going to be bright in Death Valley, and it's going to be loud. Tigers going to be having their second SEC game, but LSU needs to be careful because this is an Ole Miss team. They can pop off at any given time.
Yeah, they have a really good offense.
Got a pretty good quarterback in Jordan Teamu who took over for Shea Patterson last season when he had gotten hurt, and he's found his stride as the quarterback for Ole Miss. They have a pretty good offense. Defense leaves a lot to be desired for Ole Miss, but LSU will take on Ole Miss. Then they will go back on the road as they go against the Florida Gators, which will be their second SEC road game. And that can also probably be a trap game. I mean, but then again, the Gators got Felipe Franks. So I'm not too worried, but LSU needs to bring their game.
Yeah. Like we have said in the past, and LSU is in their arguably most winnable stretch of games right now because once they get past game number 6, it is
Mississippi State,
Georgia first,
then Mississippi State,
and then Alabama.
That's 3 straight ranked teams right there. Considering if Mississippi State stays in the top 25, that's 3 games right there. But I mean, so it's not going to get any easier. It's not going to get easy. You got Ole Miss, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi State, Alabama. That's 5 straight SEC games right there.
Right.
Now, granted, only one of those games is going to be. Now, listen to this. Only one of those games are going to be on the road. They got Ole Miss at home, Florida on the road, and Florida. There's a lot to. I mean, Florida did an amazing job against Tennessee this past week, and they blew out the Volunteers on the road. So Florida has a lot of problems. They got a lot of potential.
Yeah, and
Felipe Franks is getting a little bit better as the week. And like I said, Dan Mullen, there's going to be a constant progression of the Gators every week. So this can be a dangerous team when the Tigers come to town.
And Bama destroyed A&M.
45-20. A&M, they try their best to hang in there. But like Alabama, that's a 60-minute team. They will fight you for 60 minutes.
Yep.
And so if you not, and now that they have an offense that can move the ball, they have a quarterback that can throw for over 300 yards. They have an offense that can score 30, 40, 50 points a game. They have a formidable offense right now with Tua Tagovailoa. No Jalen Hurts, no problem. They got Tua. And this is the first offense now that they don't really need a formidable running game. They got a quarterback. So this Alabama team, now we have a dynamic, not only a dynamic defense, but a tremendous offense.
Mm-hmm.
Terrific offense. And it's like anybody in the SEC that's going against Alabama, you could be on any type of run. But when you're going against Alabama, it's like running into a buzzsaw. Like you're ripping through all your opponents. The next thing you know, you run into a buzzsaw that just splits you in half. That's Alabama. Now, the teams that I can see that could probably beat Alabama this season, I, of course, put Georgia up there. LSU can present some type of threat. Auburn could probably present some type of threat. But until I see prove Alabama, that's my front runner for the SEC right now.
Well, of course.
But
how can it not be?
But here's my prediction with LSU. Speaking of LSU, they beat. Hypothetically, they beat Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
Say they beat Florida, and say they beat Georgia and Mississippi State. Now you're looking at a team that's 8-0.
Yeah, that would be.
You're looking at 8-0 Tigers team. We'll be looking at 8-0 Bama team. And guess where college game day is coming? Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And at that point, we're going to be looking at number 1 versus number 2. And we're going to be looking at a true rematch of the 2011 BCS National Championship game. 1 versus 2 in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Saturday night in Death Valley. Do you know how much traffic is going to be coming through Baton Rouge?
Yeah, no.
That's one thing I hate about Tigers game day is the traffic around Baton Rouge. If I gotta get somewhere, I'm going through all types of traffic around College Drive, around Dow Ripple, around LSU and all that. I don't want to run into all that traffic. Think I want to run into all that traffic? No. But
Well, yeah, the top 25 is definitely SEC heavy right now.
oh, most definitely, you got Georgia,
And
Bama,
then-
LSU.
I would say Big 12 is the second most ranked teams right now. Anyway, I mean TCU just dropped out.
Well, you gotta look at the ACC as well. You got Stanford and Oregon right there. That's considering Oregon State in the top
That's
25.
Pac-12.
Pac-12.
Yeah, you said ACC.
Oh Lord, I got the West and East mixed up.
The
But Pac-12, you got
wrong
Stanford,
coastline, sir.
You got Stanford, Oregon, Washington. Big 12.
Big 12, Pac-12.
Oklahoma, Texas.
But you know,
Texas Tech.
SEC with three top 10 teams for like the fourth straight week,
Yeah.
and then you can pretty much figure that Auburn's going to climb back into the top 10 at some point. The Auburn's going to climb back into the top 10 at some point.
Most likely. And I mean, if Auburn still controls their destiny in the SEC West, if they can win out and they can knock off Alabama in the Iron Bowl, they're going back to Atlanta for the SEC championship game. If LSU can simply just win out, then they say if LSU loses to Alabama, but they win the rest of their games, things can get interesting at who goes to represent the SEC West. Yeah, that's if Auburn beats Alabama.
Yeah. So, after 4 weeks, 4 weeks. Who's your top 4 picks so far? Okay, Alabama.
Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia. That's my top 4 right now.
So
LSU hasn't really
no change whatsoever from last year.
No change right now. LSU still hasn't impressed me enough to get into my top 4. I need to see more from the Tigers.
Well, I think I can agree with that. I think the Tigers are.
The Tigers are a good team with a lot of potential. They're a team that I can see.
They'll probably get a New Year's 6.
They could probably get into New Year's 6. I could probably see them get into like Chick-fil-A Bowl or Cotton Bowl. But as far as like the 4-team playoff, I don't see them in that spectacle yet.
And a 2-loss Auburn, I could also see in the New Year's 6.
Oh, most definitely. But with LSU, I mean,
the SEC could finish with
all 4 teams in the
with at least 4 teams with a 10-2 record, or better.
But with LSU, I mean, I don't see them getting to a 4-team playoff yet. Now, I may be wrong. Things can change. LSU can progress by the week, and they could become one of the most dangerous teams, in the nation. But as of right now, they haven't impressed me enough to get into my top 4.
So I take it you don't see Penn State beating Ohio State this year.
I don't see it happening this year. Well, wait, I take that back. They're going to be in Happy Valley this year. So I can see Penn State beating Ohio State. I can see Penn State probably beating Ohio State. They got a pretty good team so far. Penn State, they had a close call against Appalachian State. But ever since, Penn State has been dominating every week. And they just dominated Illinois 63-24. And Ohio State's only a 4-point favorite in that game. And with Ohio State, you got J.K. Dobbins, who is a monster running back. He's only a sophomore. And you got Haskins at quarterback, who's been playing very well at quarterback so far. He's very accurate, and he shows a lot of promise and a lot of potential for Ohio State. And now you got Urban Meyer on the sideline, back on the sideline.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a war. It's gonna be a good game.
Okay. This has actually been a bit longer than we usually do.
Just a lot happened this past weekend.
Yeah, pretty active week in football. Well, I guess that's all we really have time for today. So we'd like to thank you for listening to Let's Talk Football. You can find us on Twitter at AI Sports 3. We're on Facebook, and our website is aisportsnetwork.com. I've been John Behrens.
I've been Josh Perkins.
And join us next week.